Hi, it's Hans at ahappierman.com. Today's topic is forgive yourself. Ooh, man, this is really a tough one, isn't it? We, men, people in general, spend a lot of time beating ourselves up for things we did, said, even thought, turning our guts into knots for all the mistakes we made, kind of ruining, in some cases, ruining our own lives for years or longer because we can't forgive ourselves. And I would just suggest that the sooner you can forgive yourself and the more often you do it, the better off your life is going to be. Because a lot of times the things you're not forgiving yourself for are things like totally beyond your control, and you've made a lot of assumptions that didn't come true, and made a lot of promises that you shouldn't be making. So I'm just trying to come up with a few examples of forgiving yourself. A big one that I had to forgive myself for was for a promise that I made. I made a promise to my father-in-law back before I got married. He came up, got announced they were getting married, and at some point he pulls me aside and says, are you going to promise to take care of my daughter? And of course I did, because that was my full intent at the time, to take care of her. And I kept that promise for as long as I emotionally could, because I did leave her, and got divorced, and eventually got her out of my life more or less totally. So, but even after I had left her, I still was taking care of her with the child support and the maintenance and other things. So that promise stuck with me a long time, and part of the reason I stayed with her so long was that promise to him. The promises to God and the priest and the congregation, and even to her. That isn't as big as like a personal promise you make to somebody. I often think about that promise I made and still think how bad I feel about it, that I had to leave her. So I'm trying to forgive myself for that. And even though he knows how terrible of a person she became due to things I don't want to get into here. You might want to get my book, Leave Your Wife and Become a Happier Man with the 3-Step System. So he knows firsthand that she got very difficult, a very, very difficult person. And nobody should have to have their lives ruined to try to make a promise that is just impossible to keep. So you gotta forgive yourself of those promises. A lot of this promising comes from the culture. There's always somebody, they make a lot of movies about these promises. So somebody will promise somebody something, and then the next 2 hours of the movie is that person trying to keep this ridiculous promise, right? So what makes for a very intriguing, drama-filled, action-filled, entertaining movie makes for a horrible, absolutely miserable life for you. So don't make so darn many promises. I would argue that you probably don't want to make any promises. You might want to go with, I'll do my best, I'll see what I can do, I'll do that for a while, I'll try, we'll see. You're better off with that kind of a because people are only too happy to get you to do something for them. You can't really blame them, but I'm warning you that that's, as an older guy, if you're a younger person, you might not want to make too many promises. And if somebody is demanding a promise from you, you might want to step back and reconsider what you're getting into. If I would have reconsidered, well, then I wouldn't have gone through all these crazy life and terribleness that I experienced. You know, looking back, looking at my life, I could just as easily have blown my brains out as be sitting here as extremely happy that I am now. And these promises that I make don't help. So I'm trying to forgive myself, but even now, 13 years since I left my wife, I'm still a little bit, it still hurts me to think about the promise that I broke. And it's hard for me to forgive myself, but I work on it. And I think you will be a lot happier man if you can forgive yourself. If you look back in your life, probably even more vivid in your memory than your accomplishments and the things that make you happiest are the things that you failed at, and the things that you wish you wouldn't have done, and the things you wish you wouldn't have said. You're still embarrassed about something that happened to you in childhood. You still wish you wouldn't have said that, don't you? I know I do. There's things I did as a kid that I still wake up sometimes wishing I didn't do that, you know. And these aren't really that big of things either. It's just stupid things that kids do, teenagers do, young men do, young people do, and you got to forgive yourself of these things. Move your thoughts to the good. Always focus on the good. You can't let your life get consumed with the mistakes you made and the missteps. I mean, who doesn't make missteps, right? And I know this is difficult. This is why I'm talking about it. I know a lot of people, the not being able to forgive yourself consumes you, and you dwell on these things that you did and said and even thought. But I would argue, try your best to move beyond that. You know, live your life in a upstanding manner. If there's things you did as a younger person that you don't really think were good, well, don't do those things anymore. If it's so serious, well, maybe you would want to somehow make some sort of a restitution. I don't know. I guess the things that I did, were so kind of minor that it doesn't even make any sense to talk about it to the other person, right? So anyway, I hope that helps you guys a little bit. It feels good talking about that thing with my future father-in-law, ex-father-in-law now, because I never talked to anybody about this before, right? He pulled me aside privately, and I wish it worked. I wish it had worked out differently. I have a daughter. I don't think I would pull her future husband aside and make him promise anything. I think, maybe in those days that was a customary thing, and maybe that's what the father is supposed to say. But looking back, it just ruined being held to that promise just ruined my life for a long, long time. It nearly ruined my children's lives. promise that I just couldn't keep due to how she was. So, I guess I'm trying to say I'm sorry. I wish it worked out a little better. Truthfully, I took care of her for a long time, many years, in a very high quality manner, and I gave her the best life I could give her. And you might not, if you get my book, Leave Your Wife, Become a Happier Man with a 3-Step System, you won't be reading about how good I did as a young man. The book kind of starts off with where I was at this absolute rock bottom part of my life and how I built from there. It doesn't get into, well, it was good at the beginning, right? So forgive yourself, bless yourself, be your own best friend. If your best friend came to you with this problem, what would you tell them? If your children come to you with this problem, what are you going to tell them? Well, you're going to tell them to forgive themselves, aren't you? You're not going to tell them to slit their own throat for this stupid mistake, are you? No. You're going to say, forgive yourself. Here's how you think about things. So give that some thought. All for now.